Welcome to Jump Shots from the Goal Line. I am your host, Jonathan Dugan, joined as always by my co host, John Henningsen. John, there was a lot of stuff going on in the sports world this week. It was almost hard to keep up with just the amount of content that was being put in front of our faces, whether it was NBA free agency, a bunch of golf stuff, just everything it seemed like. I don't know about you, man. I had a pretty low key weekend just doing some 4th of July stuff with my daughter. But in the meantime, I was just checking Twitter when I could when the rate limit wasn't exceeded. How about you?
Yeah, I think my rate limit was exceeded within 8 seconds of trying to use it. I don't really even understand what happened this weekend. I was playing, as you can imagine, as we've talked about. I'm not going to
Not a
bore you
golf
guys with my
podcast.
round. We're not doing that. Not a golf podcast. But yeah, by the time I got back, I had a message from you and some of the other guys were chatting with it, and it was like, yeah, Twitter's dead already. I don't know. You just can't use it. It's broken. So it just became a useless app in the matter of 4 hours during NBA
Yeah,
free
what a
agency of all
piss
times,
poor
which
plan.
there are times when I could care less about Twitter. We're going to be in a point in July where I'm like, all right, like
Yeah.
what's happening, unless, something crazy happens in the world because, Twitter strikes when it strikes. But uh, yeah, what did happen? I still don't even understand what's happening or what did happen. I mean, you're young. You explain
Yeah, I
Twitter to me.
mean, Twitter was bought by an eccentric billionaire in the past year, and now all his crazy ideas are coming to fruition. But yeah, I mean, to put it into terms, you, me, and Hesse were texting, and all of a sudden Hesse was bitching about that his Twitter wasn't loading. And I thought it was just one of the many times that Twitter just breaks. No, it turns out good old Elon, wants to make you pay for Twitter. What is it, Blue, the premium version? And yeah, platinum,
Platinum. I don't
whatever it
know.
is. And all of a sudden now I think like verified users, aka people that pay for Twitter, get like 1,000 tweets a day that they can read. Non-verified, but vets like ourselves, we put in the man hours, get like I think like 800 or something, and
Put in the
then
work,
new
man.
users get like 500 tweets a day. I just don't understand it because it's like if you buy like a social media platform, wouldn't you want people to just constantly be on it all day? But apparently, just putting limits on it. And I agree with you. Like, could not have picked a worse time of the year. The week of NBA free agency, like when we're all just dying for Waj bombs and Shams bombs, like and now all of a sudden your Twitter, it's like rate limit exceeded. I'm like, cool. All right, I guess I'll just be productive and spend time with my family. So I think my wife's behind it all. So you can blame her.
Yeah, I was like, there was. Look, man, it's a coup. It's a coup by everybody. Yeah, but I don't know what's going on, but it definitely was a wild time to have it happen. I would say my weekend was otherwise normal. I like that you decided to go tank top. I respect it. It's hot in Arizona now. It's time to bring it in. You see,
Yeah.
I'm a button loose. We're both. I mean, hey guys, if you were missing this on video, it is
Listen, bro,
skin
you
to
got the
win around
taco
here.
meat hanging out and it's suns out, guns out in the Dugan household. You're right though. It's hot out in these streets. It's also 9 o'clock at night, and these are my sleepwear. So throw a little thirst trap out there, never hurt nobody.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, "That's hot." Yeah, I was like, "Thank you." I was like, I know I was getting sleepwear. I thought it was more kind of like daytime fun carried over into podcast time, not,
I'm
"Hey,
not gonna
I'm
lie to you.
slipping
I've
on a
wore a
little
tank
something."
top all day. So I went to the gym earlier. No, not bragging or anything, but you guys can see the gains there. But have worn a tank top all day. It's 110 degrees outside. There's no reason for sleeves or top buttons for that matter. So
I feel like the tank top's controversial
yeah,
in other places, but it's hot here, man. There's like zero judgment for me with a man in a tank top. I'll rock a tank top. No shame, no shade. Tank tops are where it's at when you're in Arizona and it's a hunt. When you're
yeah,
clicking 110,
dude.
man,
But
a
I'm
tank
also the
top
type of person that will wear a tank
hits.
top when it's 50 degrees outside. So it's more comfortable, dude. I can't have
Okay, well, you guys can
I
comment
can't
below on
have
that portion of it. I mean, that part you can
I
decide.
can't
I
have
mean,
sleeves
that's
restricting me, bro. Like this is America, right? This is one of my constitutional freedoms is, Hey, the right to bear arms. It's right there in the paperwork, bud.
Oh, that's where you're going with this. All right. Well, again, feel free to comment. We'd love to hear back from you in terms of what you feel about Dugan's right to bear arms or
Yeah.
tank tops in
I
general,
mean,
whatever. Yeah.
does this not, I think the kids call it, have Riz? Like, I think I have a lot of Riz right now. I think I'm using that term right.
Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
takes a little bit of riz, right, to rock a tank top. I mean, you have to at least be confident enough to just be like, no, dude,
Yeah,
sleeves,
dude, they're
just
not
not it
in,
today.
So, yeah, well, anyway, it was a big golf weekend, right? Rickie Fowler finally won a tournament after coming close in the last one he was in. We have talked about it. We both kind of grew up with Ricky. When I think of Ricky, I think of the flowing mane with the neon outfit and the Puma gear. But he's a little bit more buttoned up now. I talked to my dad on the phone earlier, and he said he thinks that he's winning now because he got married. So I don't know what your thoughts are, but that's an 85-year-old's perspective.
It's the only thing
Imagine
it
where
could
your
be.
Yeah,
As someone who's
imagine where
about to
your
get married,
game's
sure.
going.
Yeah, I'm about to get married. Like, let's just roll with it. Like, I'm like, if I can't wait, guys, big upgrade, huge free agency contract coming my way, uh, coming past August here. But I don't know. It seems like all the reports are from Ricky, around Ricky, about Ricky, that he just kind of rededicated himself to the game. And it's hard to blame him if we've seen him in every
Yeah,
commercial. He's been in every commercial, he's been part of every ad campaign. He's a very known commodity in golf. And so if he was taking those checks and just having fun playing golf, kind of hard to blame him. But it seems that he's recommitted himself to his game, gone back to swing coach Butch Harmon, famously known as being one of Tiger's swing coaches
I
back
feel
in the
like
day, right?
there's
And he's
so
put the
many
game
former
together
Tiger
and
swing coaches that are out there, by the way. So I think they all have one.
sort of. But
Yeah,
really,
yeah,
Butch
yeah.
Harmon's like the dude. Like when you're talking about prime Tiger, when you're thinking about striking the fear of men, just by putting on the red shirt, those are mostly Butch Harmon days. And so Butch Harmon, certainly a known commodity, a known name around, and I think people who are, because this isn't a golf podcast, so probably you're not listening to golf. So let me just explain it to you.
Is
Butch
Butch
Harmon
the
is a
guy
big
that
deal.
when he was seeing where the wind was going, he put up his like lit cigarette and saw where the smoke was going?
No, so not
Oh,
a
yeah,
caddy,
yeah,
like an
yeah,
actual swing coach, right? So these guys will like hire out coaches to like work with
yeah,
them, break down their swing, kind of put them in whatever slot, whatever they're
yeah.
changing.
I
I
just
mean,
anytime I can bring that
the
up,
idea of them giving anyone giving me more swing
anytime I can
thoughts is
bring that guy
terrifying.
up, I
But
mean, he's a legend of the game. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, good. Still, yes, anyone who has a cigar in the course is automatically 10 points
I mean,
cooler.
yeah.
Tough go in
Who needs
Arizona, but
grass?
ash it out on
Yeah,
your
who needs
tank
grass
top
thrown up in
arm.
there when you
But
just got a heater? Just you know.
yeah, no, it is such a cool move. It's an inherent. It's definitely a cool
No, it
move.
is cool
There's
though
no
that
doubt about
Ricky's
it.
winning. I like Ricky. I always have. I've always felt kind of bad for him because he is one of those. Again, talking to my dad, we're kind of a serial like top of the leaderboard guy, but can never really get it done. And I think, like you said, him rededicating himself to the game and like putting in the work a little bit more, it's really showing through. And like I just think he's a cool guy. Like, even through the whole live stuff, like I don't think he spoke up a lot, not as much as some other guys. And he's just kind of himself and he always has been himself back to when he wore the crazy outfits to whatever. I just really respect him as a person.
Look, yeah, he's a likable guy. It's a good win for the tour in general. I think it's good to have Ricky be a part of it. He's been really, I think, arguably a top five golfer over the last 6 months. So it was just a matter of time
Yeah.
before he actually found one. Um, there's a lot of good golfers right now. I mean, it's really hard if and that's always been the case. I mean, just
Hmm.
to be clear too, it's we can try to take away from Nicholas, try to take away from Tiger's competition, try to take away from whoever's winning now. There's always guys who can play, and it's a tough game. And as you and I know from just trying to
Hmm.
humbly get through it, you have ebbs and flows. Like there's times you are hot
Yeah.
and things are going well, and there are times you are not. And you have to have a combination of things go right, and you can't have Scheffler going off. And Morikawa gave him a real good push, and so did Hadwin. But yeah, good for Ricky, man. It was good. It's good for golf. It's good for the sport. And man, we're talking about golf every freaking week,
It's
man. I
hot in
mean,
these
it's
streets, bro.
they did something right on. They did something
Yeah.
right on accident or on
Yeah,
purpose
dude. I
or
mean, I think it's a lot
whatever.
of things, right? Like post pandemic, a lot of people started picking up the sticks, full swing coming out. I think that opened up a whole new audience. I think even something like having like 2K PGA golf, like EA, whatever the new EA one is out there, I think that builds a national audience. And then even the live stuff, like anytime there's controversy, people are going to have their eyes a little bit more on it. So golf, honestly, like there's a reason we're talking about it every single week because it honestly is. It's gripping, and there's a lot of I don't know back and forth with it right now. Like you just mentioned two guys right there with Hadwin and Morikawa that like again serial finishers in the top of the leaderboard, especially lately. I bet they're probably going to win a tournament or two here pretty soon as well. It's fun, man. Even as somebody like me that's only been following it for a couple of years, so um, if you're not watching it, I would recommend it. I used to be the type of guy that I hated when my dad put on golf, and now I'm like, God, dude, this is actually really fun to watch. So really, really fun.
And that's a great lead into
Oh,
something I
here we
just want to
go, the
talk about.
victory lap.
Right? Obviously, there's been well, I mean, I don't even know that this is a full victory lap, but I mean, if you're an avid listener to the podcast, I mean, you had to. Well, you didn't have to watch me at that point. You just had to listen
Which is
to me
arguably worse.
get pissed off because yeah, yeah. So you just had to think maybe then I was kind of annoyed. But we basically had James Rogers on here, and I got him and Dugan both screaming at me like, "Look, Live bought everything. The Saudis own everything. Like whatever, dude. It is what it is." And then the epic quote is, money talks and bullshit walks, right? And that was like it got
Oh,
thrown right in my face, and I'm like, all right, well then, so then I think I accused all of golf of being, and again, poor choice of words by me. So this is on me, but probably I accuse him of being some sort of
I
sex
think that
worker, I
was
believe. And we
along the
respect sex
lines.
work around here, and we have no
Yeah.
no shade towards anybody. But I was basically like, man, if you're just gonna take money, like, all right, we get it. I think that all still happened, right? I don't think we really have to move away from the PGA didn't try to just take a
Still
money grab
sucks.
when it was
Yeah.
available. But what has changed a little bit on the reporting about PGA and Live is in terms of like who really has control and
Yeah.
what that control looks like. Because it sounds a lot more like today that the PGA is going to maintain, at least on what's out there, a lot more control of this. And ultimately, the Live is likely to go by the wayside. And what you are going to have is just some Saudis or a Saudi, the guy, the
Yeah.
PIF fund leader guy, whose name I'm going to space right now, uh, as a chairman on the executive board, but really have no other seat at the table, and is still going to absolutely be
Yeah.
outnumbered in votes all the time, but is, however, going to pour billions of dollars into the PGA. So, all of that said, my only victory lap, if there is one, and I think it's a small one, but it's still worth noting
It's like your
just so I
40-yard
can sleep at
dash.
night, is that I do think the PGA, yeah, the PGA maintained a lot of control. They maintained a lot of control, and they've kind of snuffed out this thing that was Live. Yes, they've had to let in some of this money, and they're still going to look like
Mhm.
hypocrites in this, and that doesn't really change for where Monahan sits, and it's still a weird, weird, weird thing. But ultimately, I think golf's going to look a lot more like it has looked like than change. Although, like, change is fine. I don't think anybody here is not saying that two team events a year would be cool, or that having all these players back wouldn't be something fun. Like, there's a lot of really good things that could ultimately come of this. It still looks a little
Yeah.
gross for golf in general, but maybe just maybe less of a win, or like I think I feel like that day we really oversold what the PIF
Yeah.
had gained control
It's a little
of
overreaction.
versus what the
Yeah,
reality
and it's
may
like
have
in all
looked
things
like. Yeah.
sports, you're going to overreact to things. And yeah, yeah, I
Well,
have to
you
walk
guys
it back
are.
a little bit. This is
I can't take the lap if you're gonna just be
no,
able to
no.
like me just
I have
deflect.
to be
Yeah,
kind
yeah.
of like the girl or guy the next day walking out, the walk of shame a little bit. You know what I mean? My one thought about it though is yeah, don't make that face, dude.
I was like, well, I'm like, you don't really need to like. I don't think you need to feel any shame.
um,
I'm just
my
saying,
one thought
like,
on it though is like, yeah, he does have the one seat, and you mentioned it right. Like he's probably going to get outvoted on things, but like any boardroom, I wonder how much his money actually is going to hold in terms of gathering votes, because we see it in everything in business, right? Like the guy that has quote unquote the most power, and this time it's monetary. Like I wonder how much he's going to be able to swing votes. But it seems like I don't think he really cares about live, to be honest with you. I think it really was just all power play for him to get a kind of his butt in the boardroom, which hey, good on him. He accomplished that completely. I still maintain that I don't think the guys that went to live are are going to be ostracized forever. I don't even think they're going to have to like repay any kind of like signing bonuses or anything like that. Because I think just for the good of golf, like we've mentioned it, right? Even though Live is very top heavy, those top heavy guys, like the PGA is going to want those guys back. They're all playing well. Taylor Gooch just won another Live event. He's on fire. They're going to want those guys on the PGA. I doubt that they're going to make them pay a lot of money. I could see them having to do something, right? Like a public apology or something.
Public. If they make him go public apology, though, that's exactly where I like would lose my mind on Jay. Like, there's no, you can't make those guys
Yeah.
do that. If there's some
There's
sort
got to be
of,
something though. Yeah.
I know what you're saying. No, I know what you're saying, and like that, you think that there'd be like some sort of thing, but I think it's ultimately what we talked about in the beginning, man. Like some of
Hmm.
these guys that are the big names probably not going to have a hard time
No.
finding their way
Yeah.
back into the
Right.
sport. I worry about the guys that
Yeah.
follow
Yeah.
them,
Like the
you
Ian
know,
Poulters.
and that's where you just go like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, like Phil doesn't care. Like, what does
Yeah.
Phil care about these
I think
guys?
like the
Like,
Ian
you know,
Poulters.
I mean, I'm sure
Yeah.
he's a great guy.
Yeah.
Phil
The
seems like a great
best.
guy,
But
but
yeah, like Ian Poulter or like just some of the older live guys that you and I saw and we're like, holy shit, I can't believe they're still playing golf. Like, I wonder where they're going to end up. You know what I mean? Because like the PGA doesn't really need the Ian Poulters of the
yeah,
world. Absolutely not. So, I mean, hey, they went out and got their bag, and I guess they're old enough that maybe they don't have to play any more events. You know what I mean? They just go play on a senior tour somewhere. I honestly don't know. It is a really convoluted situation, really weird. So, and I think too, what we've learned from this is like even the information you're bringing to the table today, which is good information, is subject to change. Like so much of this, I don't think they've even really come to
for
an
sure.
agreement yet, right? Like nothing's been finalized yet. For God's sakes, they're getting
It's just a
the
very
like
loose piece of
Congress wants
paperwork.
them to like testify in front of them about like an anti-collusion kind of thing, which that's going to be really interesting to follow because Jade Monahan was an idiot and went up there and talked about wanting to eliminate competition like he's a monopoly. So I don't know, dude. It's going to be really, really interesting. So I think even what you're bringing today is very subject to change.
For sure, which is why we don't come on here and just start
I mean, we
screaming,
do.
"It's a victory for Liv." Dude, I mean, if I know you guys are both in tank tops, if not topless. You guys
Guarantee
were
James
crazy that
is
night
in
as
a
far as
tank
I'm
top right
concerned.
now, ripping a
You guys were
heater.
just yeah, there's no way you guys were wearing T-shirts. You guys
You
were
know
having the
what?
best time. You guys were like, "Man, we're gonna back this guy
You
in a
know what? I think
corner."
this
I
might be the
swear.
first time I ever recorded wearing a tank top, and it's not going to be the last time because let me tell you, I'm way more comfortable than you right now. I'm taking this news so much easier
No,
right
dude,
now.
hey, I'll be joining you at some point. You're gonna see me in the KJ jersey or what? We'll do it. We'll get there. Kerr,
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah, for
We'll be
sure.
there.
Well, speaking of KJ jerseys, we're not going to talk about his past, but we're going to talk about the NBA present. NBA free agency has been hot and wild, like nobody's business. So I feel like every hour it's something, right? Coming up, some news, somebody re-signed, somebody being traded, somebody being released, or their contract not being like picked up. What have some of your thoughts been so far on NBA free agency?
Where do we start, man? I mean, we're gonna be here a while, guys. So get comfortable. There's a lot going on with NBA free agency. I think this all starts for me with. I mean, I just have to start it with Kyrie meeting with the Suns. I know it didn't probably
Or
even
was
ever
ever gonna
happen,
happen?
but this is how this whole thing. This is how this whole thing kicked off. Was like, let's just set the NBA internet on fire by telling everyone that Kyrie is going to meet with the Suns, and then everybody loses their mind, as they should. I mean, that guy knows how to party, but I mean, this guy just like immediately just like he throws a match into the flames like
Yeah,
usual, or into the
like the
gasoline like he
Joker.
always does, and then that kickstarts everything. And so we first get crazy with that, and then the next thing you know, it's when it comes time. I mean, Kyrie goes back to Dallas. I could start there. I think it's interesting that he made a leverage play, and then I guess ultimately it works because I mean he gets 40 a year
Yeah, what
over
do you
three
get? Like
years
42, I think.
competing with. Yeah, like I mean, I think it's yeah,
Yeah,
142
something.
over
So it's a
3.
lot. Yeah.
He got a lot of money. I know he's upwards north of like 40 million a year, and The guy's been a disaster for franchises. He's been a nightmare, and he leveraged himself against fake meetings and got a hell of a contract. And we were having fun with it as Suns fans, just being like, "Yeah, we'll pick
Yeah.
him up on the minimum. Why not?" And like, let's just embrace the hate. Like, whatever. Let's roll him out as a sixth man. I don't care. But ultimately, him landing in Dallas and them having to, I kind of have to
Oh
consider
yeah.
this an overpay. I mean, maybe it's not, and whatever, and I know some of this money just feels whatever in the grand scheme of things. But they signed up for 3 more years of Kyrie with Luka pending free
Yeah.
agency at some point as like the big. Hey, so I think that's huge. I think you're taking a top 5 guy and you're risking
Yep.
it with Kyrie on a big deal. So I think that alone is worth talking about. And then we can jump into, I mean, even more recent
Yeah,
news as it
before we
continues
move
to
on,
unfold.
I just looking back at the whole Kyrie thing, I thought it was hilarious that we were the one chosen as like the secret meeting. And then I think it was like less than 48 hours he had agreed to the contract with the Mavs. Like that was the
Yeah,
quickest like extortion attempt ever by Kyrie. I don't know if that's him like it worked and Mark Cuban just crumbled, or he was just like, dude, I just got to get this shit done because I'm not gonna get this money anywhere else. Because strictly on fit, like you kind of mentioned it, but like number one, the Suns, all they could have done was offer like the vet minimum, which would have been an egregious
mhm.
middle finger towards the rest of the NBA if you're Kyrie. Which, if there's anybody in the league that could do that, it was him. Um,
That's why the world
yeah.
was nervous.
And
Yeah,
by the way, back
I was like, I don't know, maybe he will. I was like, this guy's
he's a wild card for
wild.
sure. He's the Joker in the deck, absolutely. But like, I have never been more proud as like a Suns fan than Suns Twitter putting out all the memes of like like flat Earth, and then you have like the Phoenix Suns logo,
Yeah,
just
yeah,
embracing him all of a sudden. Like, oh my
yeah.
god.
Now he believes in the
Hmm.
Earth's
No,
rotation.
the
All
Suns
of those, like
rotation. Yeah. Oh
so
man,
many good. Yeah,
who
it
is that?
was great day to just troll the rest of the NBA with it too, because they were sweating. Like the rest of the NBA was like,
Yeah,
What's going on?
who's
I don't
who?
understand.
Who's that
Like, what's
guy
going
on
on in
Suns Twitter?
Phoenix?"
He always puts out those funny memes. I can't remember his name. He's a, I think he's a Kiwi. I don't remember, dude. But he's been killing Suns Twitter for the longest time, just with like memes and like all types of stuff. And he was the one that put that. And then some stupid asshole was like, "Oh, well, what's he gonna do when he finds out the sun doesn't rotate?" And he's all, "Dude, I got news for you, buddy." Oh, dude, it was just like it was such a fun moment of like a brief moment of NBA history that I'll never forget because it was just too good to be true. It was never going to happen. The lineup would have been hilarious. The constant everything about it would have been incredible. But I think really what it comes down to is like what you mentioned, right? Like, what does this mean for Luca? Because him and Luca were just dog water together. They were so bad. Like, and we on jump shots from the goal line kind of predicted that. Just if y'all want to keep listening, when that trade was made, me and Henny both said
Facts.
these are two ball dominant guards that like to bring the ball up. They want to be the guy to shoot the last shot, and you saw it all throughout the not the playoffs because they didn't make it, but like towards the end of the season, they didn't know who the hell was going to take the last shot, and it was bad. And like you said, dude, Luke is coming up on his expiring contract eventually. What does this mean for them? And then also like Matt Ishbia is like the craziest owner in basketball right now. He just does not give a crap about money. And I know that Mark Cuban has kind of that sensibility to him, but like he ain't Matt Ishbia. Like he has a little bit more common sense than just piercing the second apron and just lighting it all on fire. Their rotation's gonna be weird. Christian Wood's probably gone. They're already talking about trading like Tim Hardaway Jr. They've lost a lot of like good rotation guys in the past couple years, like Jalen Brunson. Like you mention it all the time, how hilarious that is. And then a few other guys that we can,
Love that.
yeah,
Love that for
just
Dallas. Big Brunson deal guy. Love that. Love that Brunson's actually
outplaying
outplaying Luca
Kyrie,
right now.
dude.
Facts are
Yeah,
facts,
like
bro. Facts are
all
facts. Yeah.
time just weird moves by Dallas, and I here love to see it. So but yeah, dude, it's a wild roller coaster of a ride. Um, Outside of that, since we're already talking about the Suns, we can kind of talk about them. I think in terms of winners of free agency so far, it's like them and the Lakers are just killing it right now. The Suns went out and they signed a handful of like everybody thought they were going to sign these like aging veteran, like ring chasing guys, and they did the opposite. They went out and they got a bunch of very like traits guys, like young traitsy guys, like your Keita Bates job, good defender, 7'4" wingspan, shot like 38% from three. They went out and got who's the guy from the Trailblazers, the center. God, what's his name? Such good podcasting
I
right
know
now.
I'm gonna mess it up too. Yep, I was like, I'm gonna fail on it too, but
Yeah, I
don't
have a
worry, I'm gonna
whole
find it
group
for you.
chat with it. God, this is so bad, but they went out and signed just
All right, I'll tell you who they signed. A
bunch
bunch
of
of
Jags,
guys. That's
baby. That's
who.
what we got.
They signed a bunch of
Yeah,
freaking dudes, man. And let me tell you. All right, so they. All right, so let's cover it. So they
Drew
Drew
Eubanks.
Eubanks
Thank
is
you.
the
Which
center we're
I
looking at. They added
Yuta.
Watanabe as a wing. They added
Yes.
Bates Jop as a wing. They brought back Wainwright. They drafted Kamara. They
Yep.
brought back Okogie. Um, yeah, I was like, we had Gordon coming over in the deal. Brought back
They
Lee.
signed yeah, Chimezi
Medu
Metu.
signed.
Yeah. But all those guys outside
Yeah,
of Gordon are these young traitsy guys that all shot over 35% from three. Even Eubanks is a big who I've liked Eubanks' game
yep,
in Portland because he always used to give us fits, especially when he was on the Spurs when we were just dog shit. He was just a hustle big that would rebound the crap out of the ball. Now he has a 3-point shot. I was sad to see Jock Landale go because Jock was just really fun being an Aussie, and he played really good minutes in the playoffs. But Eubanks was cheaper, and he brings the same kind of like game, but a little bit more mobile. And then me too. Like I remember his days when he was on Stanford, really mobile, like 4 or 5 guy that again can shoot threes. And then then they finally just like staying on the whole planetarium thing, they bring it all together and they bring Eric Gordon to the desert. I was extremely happy about that because when we were dog shit back in like 2014 or whatever, I remember him telling the New Orleans Pelicans, my heart is in Phoenix. And I was so excited as a young man back then to be getting Eric Gordon. And arguably, I'm more excited now because he's like such a good vet, played really good minutes for the Clippers, excellent shooter. Exactly what we needed was like another like guard off the bench that can run the offense instead of campaign. The Suns got way better and a lot better than I think people thought they were going to get this free agency.
yeah. The reality was going into it that we knew they had to go get
Yeah,
league minimum guys. Everybody knows that, which is like this is my favorite part about Twitter during all this is every time we sign a guy for the minimum,
yeah.
which is the only thing we can sign him for. Everybody reacts with like, "How much money do they have?
The
How are they
vitriol.
spending all this money?" And I'm like, guys, like we're just
Yeah,
signing league minimum guys. They want to come here because there's a chance to win, and they know they can spend 1 year just like Brown did into 2 years, over 40
yeah.
million with the Pacers. And like that's what every single one of these guys that you just outlined who has again in traits, I love that
That's
you
what
call it
it is,
traits, like
right?
these traits guys that are just no, and and it's exactly right and it's perfect. And it's just then those guys become like just learn the system, whatever that system ultimately, that's still to
Yep.
be determined a little bit. But I think you do get a nice little peek at what it looks like in terms of I think they're going to be more aggressive defensively. I think they're going to. I would imagine that they're going to let Aiton play in space a little bit more. They're going to use versatile wings. I think they're going to be a little bit more switch heavy, right?
Yeah.
That's what it feels like to me. They really every single guy traits wise
All can defend. Yep.
wingspan, and as you mentioned, shooting. So I just cannot believe what a good job they did. I will mention that I don't even know if it's Metu Metu. We got a real tomato situation. I do know he's from USC, so I want to make sure as
It
Pac-12
wasn't
guys, we make sure we
Stanford?
don't
Oh, weird.
get that one. No, he's a USC guy, but it's okay. Just wanna make sure we had it because 'cause we're Pac-12 guys, and they're counting on us for this information out there. I'd let it slide if it's a Big 12 school.
Yeah.
I'm like, Oklahoma State. I'm like, Bedlam, whatever, who cares?
I
Boomer
remember U
Sooner,
of A playing
who
him though,
gives
that's
a
all.
but yeah, no, that checks out. He's actually one of the guys that got
Oh,
dominated by
fun.
Ayton in Las Vegas. Like, I just remember so, I mean, hey, Ayton, go off and practice, king. Start handling this guy the way I saw you handle him in the Pac-12 tournament in Vegas, and we're rolling. That was the best Ayton that I've seen. So, man, I just love what they did. I love it. It was every guy that we thought they could, would, and
Yeah.
should want to target seemed to end up here. I mean, you could have put Kevin Love on the wish list over Gordon if you preferred size over this. It seems a little weird that we don't have a true point guard outside of Payne, and
Yeah.
even that's like debatable. I think it's an era where, and I don't even know if it's like an era thing. I think that's kind of a lame argument, even in of itself. But it's interesting to not have a true point guard, and I think just getting used to being a Suns fan, and we've had Nash, we've had KJ, we've had it's been a point guard
Absolutely.
heavy franchise, so it feels a little weird. But everybody's just saying like, oh well, now it's putting a lot of pressure on point book. Like
Yeah.
KD can bring the ball up, Beal can bring the ball up, Gordon can bring the ball up, Payne can bring the ball up. These are not guys who are going to just get trapped, and no one's going to
Mm-mm.
press these guys
Yeah.
and run us out of the gym.
Well, I
It's
I
going to
saw
be
a rumor
fine.
too today that
So
they're gonna work out Darren Collison, who hasn't been in the league for a couple of years, but I mean he was a nice little point guard for the Lakers, for the Pacers. That'd be a really nice fit. I
yeah,
don't know what they're gonna do though. They would have to I think they'd either have to make Chouamini like a two-way player, or
it's
they'd have to
Yeah, it's like they have to release Todd pretty much, I think is the deal, who
yeah,
was part of
or
the
they
Wizards deal.
could trade Payne or I don't know. It's weird, but that would be a great pickup, veteran point guard out there. When you think about Frank Vogel, though, right? Like, isn't this exactly what we should have expected? Because he's such a defensive-minded like coach, like arguably the best defensive coach in the league outside of like Thibodeau. Um, like you want these like switchy, tangible, like wing players, and that's exactly what they went out and got. And to your point, I don't know, I don't even think you even really need a point guard, like especially with the caliber of guards that you are getting, they're all guys that have ran an offense, brought the ball up. Like they can move the ball
Yeah,
around. Like Beal had to do it in Washington. Devin Booker had to do it before Chris Paul got there and then learn from Chris Paul. Kevin Durant is Kevin freaking Durant, right? And then Eric Gordon, he was on really bad Pelicans teams for a long time, so he knows how to run an offense. I think they're in great shape, so I'm excited.
I am too, man. I really genuinely don't
No,
believe it could have gone much better. I it's hard to imagine, and it's weird to say because I think we're just generally scarred, right? We've had a lot of you go into the off season and you're kind of like, all right, well, I'll just read this little wish list, and we
yeah,
know it's exactly that. Felt like a grocery
yeah,
list for the first time ever. As long as I can remember, I was like, oh, so we're just gonna get
yeah,
everything we came for, like check, 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 and yeah, it just felt like they added every kind of piece that they needed to. You could argue they could have gone bigger, smaller, could have
yeah,
valued this more than that. Look, they valued what they valued, and they got all the guys in that sort of I don't know, that skill shape, that trait based
yeah,
kind of thing you're talking about. With the guys that they wanted, they seemed to really
yep.
target and get. So that was awesome, man. If you're a Suns fan, I don't think you could be more
Yeah, and
stoked about
people
this
shouldn't be
season coming
shocked,
up.
right? Like when you have three superstars like on a team, like guys are gonna want to come to that team. And then you also throw in the fact that it's Phoenix, which for some reason people don't consider like Phoenix a big market. Like Phoenix is like the fifth biggest city in the US. And it's also
Huge
like
market.
where every former athlete goes to retire. Like every single one. Like go to Scottsdale where Henny's from. I guarantee when Henny was like courting Tyra Banks, there were probably like three athletes in the pool. You know what I mean? That's just like, yeah,
Oh, and people
yeah,
golfing half a block away. You know what I mean? Having the
yeah,
time of their life. On a resort. So yeah, if you again, not a golf podcast, but man,
yeah.
they'd
So
be
it
golfing
it
out
was
there.
bound to happen, and then like the vitriol behind like, I saw a stupid tweet today where they're like, "Oh, Phoenix didn't earn this. People are just wanting to go there because they have money." It's like, did you not watch the past 10 years of Phoenix? They earned every part of like finally being a destination. Like, good God, dude. Like, I sent you and Hesse a picture earlier of our roster from like, what was it, like 6 years ago? Had like Kendall Marshall and
It's a
like
hell of a yearbook.
Luis Scola on
Yeah.
it. Like, dude, we earned our stripes, baby. Let me tell you.
Yeah, and look, if you're not a Suns fan, this is a franchise who's been
Yeah,
one of the winningest franchises, like in the history of the NBA, and had a ton of playoff
just
success,
never
a
won the big
ton of
one.
playoff success. You know, who skipped steps, the Denver Nuggets. You know what I mean? Like those, I right, like those guys haven't won shit
Yeah,
ever. I mean, ever. And then just out of nowhere, they kind of stumble through this West with a bunch of injuries, and then face a Heat team. Which, say what you want about the Heat, unless they add Dame, which maybe we can transition to, like, hey man, that Heat team wasn't a good team in the finals. I don't
yeah.
I don't really care. Like I don't really care who wants to hear it. It was cool. Spoelstra, a ton of credit to Jimmy Butler.
They had no
Talent for
business.
talent,
Yeah,
that was
they
not a
had no
great
business
team out
playing
of
in the
the
finals.
that was
Yeah,
not a
no.
great team. No, that felt a lot
Yeah,
like Iverson
absolutely,
Sixers.
dude. The other team that I mentioned, though, the Lakers, they have made some really good moves. They've brought in a few of their own guys. You know, they brought back um, Austin Reeves, huge re-signing because he was a baller last
Healthy
year.
deal.
Brought back Rui, who like career revival after getting out of Washington. Let's hope Bradley Beal has the same thing, getting out of that cesspool in Washington. Or the swamp as they call it, right? I think that's what our parents call it. Um, they bringing back D'Angelo Russell, which that might not be a good move. Didn't quite understand the bag
Uh,
he got. 3 years, 51 million. Like, good God. But then bringing in like Gabe Vincent, really good pickup. Schroeder's gone. Troy Brown's gone. They brought in Cam Reddish, who like talk shit all you want about Cam Reddish, but like under the right
Flyer.
circumstances, maybe he can like unlock some of the things everybody always thought he had. And then bringing in like Jackson Hayes, I hate Jackson Hayes, but he does have another, traits guy, long, tall, athletic. And then bringing in Torian Prince, that was a really big pickup too because he's a great defender, great shooter. That's a team last year that surprised a lot of people at the end of the season and actually made a real run in the playoffs. Surprised us. I didn't think they would do as much as they did in the playoffs, but they had LeBron, who is LeBron, and AD stayed healthy. So I don't know. What were your thoughts about their pickups?
Lakers continue to impress. They just picked up from the All-Star break, which I thought they won that as much as anybody. Obviously, the Suns taking the big, you know, prize, if you will, with KD, but I thought what the Lakers did to completely overhaul the roster
Yeah,
blew my mind. And they continue to press on that. I mean, and I think letting Schroeder walk, I don't think paying Schroeder 15 to 20 million a year was the move. So don't blame him for bowing out on that. But they recover. They bring in Vincent. They keep D'Angelo Russell. I'm still not going to be a D'Angelo Russell guy, but if he's just a guy and he's now not a $30 million piece and he's a $15 million piece, then yeah, he's a good flyer guy.
yeah,
Cam Reddish, good flyer guy. Um, they added shooting around what seemed to work with LeBron and AD playing more muck it up post game. I shouldn't even say muck it up. They're
yeah,
playing clean ball or whatever, but they're playing post.
yep,
They want to play big, and then they want to have some shooters around those guys because LeBron, his jump shots. I mean, honestly, if we're being real, his jump shot's never been great. He finds a rhythm with it, whatever. But that's gone away, and him and AD are now basically both post slash get to the rim free throw guys, with maybe some level of mid range game. So they need some shooting around it. I thought they did a good job building the roster. Lakers continue to impress me. It's annoying. It sucks. Um, but ultimately they'll have to face all the same realities that the other teams that are top heavy have to face. And if you're healthy, I think that's a good enough roster where they're going to have a puncher's chance in anything in the playoffs, at least at looking at it,
yeah,
from a year
absolutely,
out.
man. And I think if I was going to crown one more winner out of free agency, I kind of like what the Rockets are doing. You know, one of those teams that a lot of young talent. They've been drafting, I think, pretty well since they got rid of Harden, and then they went out and got Fred Van Vliet, which a guy a lot of Suns fans wanted. I think he can do some really nice things with Kevin. What's his name? Kevin Green. Is that the shooting guard? Okay, yeah, Jalen
Jalen.
Green. Yeah. I think he can unlock a lot of things with him, with Alperen Senguin, or I can't ever say his name right. Yeah, but they
Yeah,
have a lot of
Sengun
like lanky,
or
long
s-
guys, like athletes, and then they did sign Dylan Brooks for a shit ton of money. That bring They did bring down their
for a
score
lot.
with that because 4 years, 80 million for that guy.
Seems like a
Like, I
steal.
don't know what they were thinking with that, but then they went out and got Jock Landale. We mentioned Jock earlier, played really well in the playoffs. I think he can continue to grow his game. Brought in Jeff Green, a good veteran presence, played really well for the Nuggets in the playoffs. And then I think just that young talent that they already have, I think they're going to be a lot better next year, pushing teams for that eighth seed like the Pelicans or some of the other teams that have kind of fallen down the ladder a little bit. Did you have any thoughts on the Rockets?
Yeah, I hate
Really?
everything they did. I honestly do like yeah, I genuinely think it's like the worst. I'm not into any of this. I think they overpaid for Fred
Yeah. Okay.
Van Vliet, excuse me, which I understand because I think they're in a position where so look, this can go one of two ways. Like maybe they
42
brought the
million is
adult
a
in the
lot.
room that they needed. Yeah. So like maybe they got the adult in the room they needed the same way, because I don't know, the Suns were already kind of like turning the corner. So like when they bring in CP, I think that that kind of was like that next
Yeah.
move that really propelled them. I feel like the Rockets are still a
Okay.
few steps below that, and I feel like they've brought in Fred, who I have a lot of respect for, but ultimately at the end of the day is like a 39% shooter and not quite the playmaker CP is. Maybe a better defender, certainly younger, but feels like he has a lot of tread on the tires somehow. And then I mean, and good for good for the gang at now I'm forgetting the name of the
Oh,
agency, but Wild Wild West basically, and the boys,
yeah. LeBron's
um,
boy. Yeah.
like yeah, like they're all making money. So I mean, good for Fred for getting his money, but I feel like Houston just continues to be the victim of like who's the bad
Yeah.
contract out there, and like Houston's probably going to sign it. And how badly does Houston now want to trade Dylan Brooks as part of an asset deal for Dame Lillard? And they're like going, wait, Dame
Yeah.
is available. Wait, did we just give Fred? Wait, what did we do? Can we have just traded? Because if I'm doing that again, I'm after Dame and maybe that's not even something that was possible in any way. But I don't know. I just did I and part of it could just be reputation where I just don't trust Houston. I cannot look at Houston the same like post Harden. It's like they've always like they're just kind of in this ever like I don't know, man. I can't. I trust Houston Rap.
How
I don't
funny
trust
is
the
it, by
Houston
the way, that
Rockets.
James Harden's like twerking to be back on the Rockets? Like, did you see that? Like, his
Yeah,
preferred destinations are the Clippers and the
of
Rockets.
course. Yeah, he put it out like a
How
year ago.
how bad is he missing
Like
those strip
I
clubs,
mean,
dude?
James requests a trade like the day after he gets to the next place. He's like, "Hey, just want to let you know, I'm really happy to be here, but if this doesn't work out, here's a list of destinations and
How
places I've
how
been
bad
thinking
does
about
he
going."
miss those strip clubs back there, dude? Like, that's the motivation.
Dude, it is.
It's true, dude. And we'll forever be
I
fighting that
mean,
he posed as a fat guy to get out of Houston just to be like, you know what? I'm skinny now.
yeah,
I'm gonna
like
go back.
you're right, dude. He literally took a picture of like my face, and then just was like, he's like, dude, look, this
Yeah.
is the shape I'm in.
He
Like, this is what you get. Like, it's gonna be a little puffy. It's
We were
not.
talking about being
It's not
bloated last
ideal, but
week,
like I can
dude.
still hoop. I can get
James
buckets.
Harden was feeling
Yeah,
bloated that day.
exactly. Yeah.
That will forever be
Dude,
funny too. Like,
let's
and
talk
then he
about like
gets to
yeah, we got to talk about Harden again,
yeah,
dude.
and
He
then he
requested
gets to the
another trade. I mean, say whatever you want, but like
that was
he
so funny
requested
too, because
another
then he
trade.
gets to the Nets and he was so svelte and skinny, like, dude. Now he wants to go back. God, that guy's such a nightmare too. Like, what a typical Sun Devil. Like, I'm sorry. Uh, again,
Yeah, and the Rockets are out on that. They've pretty much
yeah,
already said like
I think
no.
so.
I mean, which obviously Fred makes that
Hmm.
pretty obvious, but like where does he even go? I don't even understand the landing places for him or what the value is for him at this point because he's a
Yeah,
rental. I mean, you could view him as whatever, but like if no like who is committing to him at this him, Kyrie have like spun themselves into a place where I cannot believe they continue to have like the
yeah.
value that they do.
All
And
time bad guy in the playoffs too.
and
Ask Sixers fans. It's
yeah,
like
no,
progressively worse every game.
unbelievable. And Morey's like doing him a solid, like, right, finds a way to get him there for Ben Simmons, which feels like
Still
a coup at
does.
the time. Brings him in for Simmons. Still, yeah, and it's still, yeah, you're right. It still does because he's at least he played and he was an asset. And if they win one more round of playoffs, we're going like, hey, it's still worth it. And even as it was, you're right. It was still a good move, but now like him and like I feel like Morey's gone to bat for him, right? Like every time he's like he's tweeting for him and defensive him all the time. James should be an MVP candidate. James is that kind of guy. James is special. Like the reason we're bringing James, and then now he's like, hey, Morey, like dude, it's been a year. I can't be here forever, dude. I'm not that kind of guy. Like it's
Adversity?
not for
Nah,
me,
I'm
dude.
good, dude.
Yeah, man. I didn't realize they were gonna write a bad article, dude.
You're right though. I don't know where
Blindsided
he
me.
goes because like Houston was like it made the most sense because like they had the guys to trade for him. The Clippers, they just re-signed Westbrook. Granted, it was only for like 2 years, 8 million, so they still could do it. But I have no idea where he goes. I think I've seen some like Bulls stuff. I think I've seen the Miami Heat, which they are not going to trade for James Harden because he will fail that conditioning test so quickly. Can you imagine? Can you imagine James Harden running the Pat Riley conditioning test? Oh my God! Please make that trade. I want to see that.
And the Heat don't have enough for the Lillard deal either. To me, like by the way, like everybody who's always telling the Suns that they can't pull off this trade for that or blah blah blah, and it's not to be about that. But I mean, so Lillard also requests a trade. Now I'm just going to flow into this, and if you want to go back to making fun of Harden, I'll stay there all day. So we can definitely do that if you want to go back and run him over again. But with Lillard now requesting a trade, I'm trying to figure out. I mean, I think there's a lot of teams with assets, but like, if they're are they going to still try to like do this guy a solid, even though they've been, all they've done is pay this guy the absolute max of the max forever. Um, they they jumped all in on Jeremy Grant, which by the way, that was crazy money, and that number did surprise me. I like Jeremy
A
Grant, but I
lot
do
of
think
money.
that is yeah, I think it's a big number for Jeremy Grant. Like I know a lot of Suns fans are like, "Oh man, Ayton at 30." Well, how do you feel about Jeremy Grant at
Yeah.
40? I don't know. Like I mean, or closer to that number, it gets a little sketchy. But where do you understand where Dame goes either? I'm very hard pressed to figure out where this actually works. Where if the Blazers actually stand up, which NBA teams fold all the time to these guys, so maybe just he gets his
Yeah.
way and that's is what it is. But if they stand up, I don't see how he goes to Miami. I don't see how he goes to, name this other team that he's interested in. I think there's a lot of good fits for the
I
Orlandos, the
saw the
Houstons,
Jazz
as you
today. That'd
mentioned,
be kind of
flipping pieces.
interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Utah's got a ton of picks, right? They can trade a ton of picks and change the Blazers' destiny with picks, but I don't know where he's going to go.
Yeah.
That's on his preferred list. I'm sure it ends up happening because it's the NBA
Yeah.
and that's how
Definitely
this
the most
works. But
player like forward league in sports. So I mean, it's probably going to happen, but everything I see, it's like like 3-team trade this, 4-team trade that. When you get to that level, it gets really messy, and I don't know how they're going to pull it off.
I don't either. I mean, I just don't. I have a hard time putting him in a landing place of where, at least in terms of the teams that have been discussed
Yeah,
thus
I
far,
don't know.
it doesn't. If you're the Blazers, you're trading for
I
Hero
mean, Tyler Hero he
and
did
Duncan
remove Miami Heat
Robinson.
from his Instagram bio. So
Whoa, God, they must be
I don't
crushed.
know.
It looked pretty tough for the Heat making that finals run without him.
Yeah,
Classic addition by subtraction for Hero. Not good
yeah,
on the
I
old
don't get
value.
it either because a lot of Heat fans are like, "Oh my God, we can't trade Tyler Hero." Like, why? Because he's like an eccentric white guy that like had a couple good runs. Like, I don't get it, but I think they're going to end up having to do it because he's really their only asset that's not named Bam. They're not going to trade Bam.
Right, but if you're the Blazers, like, how does that
I don't
interest
know,
you at
dude.
all? Like, there's no world, like, so right, Suns fans or whatever about Aiton. There's no world in where I was going like, oh, if we get Hero back, we're good. No
Yeah, dude,
chance.
I honestly don't know. I don't know how the trade works out, but it's gonna happen, like you said. Like first time in his career he's ever requested a trade, and like it's gonna happen. I mean, he's given back to the franchise enough. and has earned that respect that they have to basically trade him now. But really, the only realistic trade I see is to
Right.
the Jazz, like in terms of value at least. I know that's not what's going to happen, but which would honestly be a cool story. He went to Weber State. Like I don't know. I don't know how he fits in that market, but doesn't really fit their MO,
Yeah.
but you know, who they look for. Now Tyler Hero, if they can get involved in that 3-team trade and get Tyler Hero to the Jazz, like let me tell you, there's going to be a lot of Utah fans buying Tyler Hero jerseys. Let me just be the first guy to say
Yeah,
that.
no, that's a market. Right. Yeah, no, you're right. That's traditionally a very good market for guys that look like Tyler Hero.
Let's just chalk it up now. That's definitely what's going to
Just
happen. They're going to get in a 3-team
yeah.
trade. Tyler Hero's going to go to Utah, and we will be all over social media talking about it, and it's going to be hilarious. So, um,
But Blazers don't want you don't want Harden if you're the Blazers, right?
no,
Like
you
that
don't
doesn't make
trade
sense
Dame just to
either.
get Harden. Like, definitely not. I don't think Harden wants to go to Port. Well, you know what though?
So
Per capita, Portland does.
per capita,
Portland does
yeah,
have the
here's the
most strip
number.
clubs in America. So,
I've been informed of this several times a week. You cannot get into James Harden trade conversation without people dropping statistics around strip clubs. I'm every time the James Harden trade comes up, I get more information around strip clubs than I could ever possibly imagine or hope to
is that
have.
actually maybe the best
Um,
destination for James Harden then? I mean, gets to be the number one guy. There's so many options to choose from after you're done playing basketball. Like, hey, did we just uncover a 3-team trade right now? Like that might be it.
I mean, is Zion back on the market? New Orleans has a great
4-team
strip club
trade.
scene. Are we talking New Orleans again? Does Atlanta get involved? They already
Can you
moved
imagine the
Collins. Like, that's
can
a
you
great
imagine the
strip club
debauchery that
market.
would happen if Zion Williamson and James Harden were on the same team? Oh my god. There's not a
No,
porn star safe. That's all I can say.
Twitter can't handle that. I would do one search and I would have read all of my
Yeah.
1,000 texts for the day, or my tweets for the day. I'm like, hey, you're out. I was like, oh man, I really got into that Zion Harden content. That was
Oh
good.
man, there's so many possibilities I hope happen now. God, this is why I love the NBA though. The last one, the
It
last one I did
is
want to
so
talk
great.
about. Draymond resigned. Are you shocked?
No, I thought this was very obvious, and I guess this can go back into here we are again talking about golf. But soon as I
I
saw
thought
him
the
at the
same
mat
thing. Yeah,
and he's hanging out with Clay and Steph, I'm like, who are we kidding? Like these guys are inseparable, and Steph's going like, dude, get your shadow out of it. Like he's like, you're gonna get teed up on the green here. He's got jokes for him. Like Draymond laughs it off. Draymond
oh
terrible
my
at the beer bong,
god.
by the way. Uh, just not. Draymond always talking a big game. You know what I mean? And I respect him and he can play, but like this that was just very much like par for the course too, for him to just like
No pun
bite off more
intended.
than he could chew with his mouth some way. And then of course just ends up, yeah, just
That was
wearing it
so
with,
bad.
with Mahomes with his oh man, oh yeah.
That was a
Yeah.
good impression, dude.
God, I thought you were gonna do better than that, man. But it was by the way, Kelsey surprised me. That guy just continues to be
Very good
incredibly
golfer.
athletic. Now we're just bouncing all over the place, which I think is the best
Yeah,
version of this podcast anyway. So screw it. That guy had like a night. Yeah, he was nice, man.
much
That's
better
just an
than
athletic
Mahomes.
dude.
Yeah,
I want to hate him,
definitely
but
the better of the
I can't.
two. I thought for sure.
Yeah, no, like he really had a like just a lovely tempo to his swing. It was just striping it. I was like, dude, this guy is so smooth. I
Yeah,
hate this
God, I want to
guy.
hate you so bad, but now you're good at golf and like,
I want to hate him. Yeah.
oh man,
Just just can't count this guy out, man. I'm like, this I mean, now I'm like he hosts SNL. He goes out there and plays good. He
yeah,
did a good job on SNL.
great
Plays
podcast with
good
his
golf.
brother.
He's obviously an incredible tight end. His
Yeah,
podcast is awesome. And I'm just going like, yeah, dude, it makes sense they had a dating show. It didn't make any sense to me at the time, but now I'm like, where do I sign up? I'll marry this guy. This
yeah,
guy's
dude. I
unbelievable.
that was the most enjoyable part of the match because, like I was telling you before we recorded, like I thought it was a little boring to be honest with you. That some of the other versions of the match have been a lot better. My favorite one is always going to be the Brooks and Bryson one. That was a lot of fun to me, um, just because of the rivalry there. But like overall, there wasn't enough hatred there, huh? Like usually with the match, like I like having a little bit of like chatting at each other, and it was just like I don't know, just guys being dudes. Like, oh, if you miss this putt, you know where we're gonna be. I'm like, all right, dude, come on. Like, I need more hatred
Yeah.
out of you. Um, it would have been way better if it was like Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelsey, and then Jason Kelsey brought like I don't know if Jalen Hurts golfs, but that would have been great. I would have enjoyed that a lot more.
Yeah, there's something about like that. I don't know. It seems like the football guys respected what the
They
basketball
watch
guys
each
have
other.
done,
You know
kind
what
of
I
vice
mean?
versa. Yeah, there's like that mutual respect. Like you're the greatest at
Yeah.
this, we're the
And
greatest
then
at that. So it felt
Draymond
very
just
much
felt like a
like
weird addition to me. Like he wasn't part of the match. You know what I mean? He was just like commentating. I was just like, all right,
just a
yeah,
TNT guy, but also just being Draymond. Which is always borderline
yeah.
likable. Like you might like it for a while, but
He's gonna
eventually
be
you're
the
going to be turned
best
off.
like version of Kendrick Perkins on ESPN. Which, by the way, like the fact that Kendrick Perkins survived the culling at ESPN will never like not surprise me. That was the most predictable thing ever. Oh, you're bad at your job. You're gonna have a job here at ESPN.
Who is the ESPN personality that surprised you the most that got let go?
Um, what was her name? The sideline reporter, female. She's been doing it for like 30 years. Do you know who I'm talking about? I'll figure
I
it
wish
out.
I
But also
did.
Max Kellerman, like Susie Colbert.
Susie
Yeah, she
Colbert?
got let go. Like that's surprising, right? Because she's been there forever and she's good
Yeah.
at what she does. I mean, they had a whole like website called Kissing Susie Colbert. Like, I mean, terrific personality.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Shout out Joe Namath. Yeah, shout out
So
Joe. Way to way
she
to
was
way to make a moment.
surprising. Van Gundy was surprising because I thought he's good at his job.
I
Yeah,
thought that
and
was
then just like
surprising.
the guys that survived, it was gross to be honest with you. Like the fact and their whole reasoning behind it was like, oh, we're getting rid of big salary personalities so we can pay everybody, and it's like you're Disney, you can pay everybody as it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, kinda hard to not yeah, kinda hard to believe that line there, but, I was surprised to see McShay go. I feel like he's
That's
really I
huge.
mean, for my age group, I'm like I mean, I grew up watching Kuiper, and I guess you keep him around, but to me,
Oh,
McShay's been the
he's
guy,
so
like,
much better.
okay, of an
Yeah,
ESPN guy yeah, like, if I'm going to ESPN for draft information, like, I'm not listening to Kuiper.
yeah,
I appreciate that he's there because it's like a character, but, like, I'm really going for McShay, and then I think Van Gundy, and then Jalen Rose is
yeah,
pretty surprising to me too because he's had a lot of success in, like,
yeah.
different platforms, like, it's not yes, he's on, like, their NBA studio shows, and he does a good job there, and apparently
Oh
Perkins
my
is just so
god.
good, dude. Like, he's just so good that there's no way they could have considered him, but, I mean but moving from that to yeah, it was an interesting day from ESPN. I think all these people are gonna land on their feet.
Yeah,
David Pollock was another one that was pretty surprising if you're a College Game Day fan. I think he's been a pretty much a staple for a long time, but weird day at ESPN, but I think sports media has changed. I mean, you're probably if you're listening to us or watching us, it's probably because you're tired of ESPN in a lot of ways. I mean, I know that's why I started
yeah,
seeking out alternatives. I very rarely tune into ESPN and SportsCenter, and when I do, I'm normally reminded as to
yep.
exactly why I go elsewhere for
The
my
thing that sucks
content.
about McShay too, though, just real quick, was like he's had a tough year as it is. Like he was really sick like most of the year, and now he loses
Right,
his job. I mean, he'll get picked up so quick because like again, he's so good.
for
But
sure.
to me, dude, I mean, he was like the face of the NFL draft for ESPN. I mean, I already started
Same.
watching NFL Network anyway because I like those guys better. But it does. That one was really tough. And then Susie Colbert, just like I mean, dude, she's been my whole life like part of ESPN. So it was a wild, wild day, dude.
Susie, you're so pretty. I just want to kiss you. Joe, what are you doing? Joe, you can't. You're on
So
TV.
on par for him though.
He's like, "Dude, I won a Super Bowl with the Jets. Are you kidding me? The Jets have sucked forever. I'm a
I
god."
wear mink coats.
I mean, that is like the funniest like transition from a
Yes.
clip to an actual website that became something that became like part of the sports pop culture, which
Yeah.
led to Deadspin and ultimately Barstool Sports. I feel like all of that, it all happened because
Yeah.
Joe Namath
Thanks
is a
for your
creep.
service, Joe.
We're just having a weird day. I don't even want to accuse him of being a creep. He's just having
I
a weird,
think
he's just
we
having a
can even
weird
like
moment.
take a little bit of like, like thank you, Joe. I don't think we would be doing this if it wasn't for Joe, you know?
Joe Namath broke ESPN, and here we are. Shout
Yeah.
out to Joe
Dang.
Namath.
Well,
We owe it all to Joe. Shout out Jets fans. This is your one. Take your victory lap. This will be the only
I
one you
will
ever
say I
get on
think
this
Paul
podcast.
Feinbaum's okay, right? He didn't get canned, right?
I
Yeah.
think Paul. There's no way they can get rid of. Dude, they
He's the
can't
voice of
lose
the
that.
South. So
Dude, yeah. I was like, there's a lot of talk on those Barstool guys for who the king of the South, and I know Mincy's since retired, and they got their boy Brandon Walker, but
yeah, it's definitely Paul
Paul
Feinbaum,
is
which
undefeated,
means
man.
which means
Paul is
our
undefeated.
beloved Braden Gall is okay. So we love you, Braden.
Which is good. Yeah, shout out to Braden if you're out there. Yeah, continue to get that guest host spot. You're still in the bread and butter.
Yeah, that's
You got
right.
your boy.
All right, guys. Well, I think we've wasted your time enough talking about Joe Namath and the rest. But thanks for tuning in. It's been a blast. I hope you guys are enjoying the video of us, just being tank topped up, sneezing into the microphone. So, with that being said, enjoy your 4th of July weekend. Be safe. No Jason Pierre Paul incidents. For the love of God, keep all your fingers. Remember, you light it and you walk away. You don't hold it. Besides that, call an Uber, call a Lyft. That is also not worth it. But enjoy your week and enjoy the sports content. Don't forget, click that subscribe button down there. And then if you're listening to us, please subscribe on whatever platform you're listening to us on. Leave a review, leave a comment. We love all that kind of stuff. Hit us up on social media if you're still have not reached your tweet limit. You can follow us on there at Jump Shots Pod. You can follow us on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, and watch all our YouTube shorts as well. So, with that, Henny, you got any closing thoughts? Perfect.
No, sir.
Well, hey, Henny, you have a great 4th of July week too. All right. All right.
You
I'll
do the
talk to you
same, brother.
guys later.
You
See
do the
ya.
same.